What's up guys, DuArktik here with another Marvel Strike Force video, and in this video we have a very exciting video. We are going to talk about the best counters for the Tangled web in Cosmic Crucible. And this is going to be mostly free-to-play counters. These counters should be available for most people. And this is from my experience on Cosmic Crucible on Masters bracket. So you know for sure that this is going to work with a small Tangled web, but it's also going to work with big Tangled web, which you might find more often going forward. So as always, if you like the information on this video, make sure you share it with your friends on Facebook and Discord. If you're new to my channel, make sure you subscribe for more Marvel Strike Force content, and make sure you smash that like button. Okay, so with all that in mind, let's take a look at these counters. We are going to take a look at the order in terms of preference, and we'll go from my least preferable to the most preferable team. And once again, as I mentioned, we are going to take a look at a wide variety of counters, and they will be mostly free to play, depends on if you are a veteran player or not. But even if you are not a veteran player, I'm gonna tell you a few counters that you can get easily, and that will allow you to have upper hand versus the Tangled web. So with all that said, let's get started. Okay, so let's take a look at our first counter, and this is going to be Eternals together with Loki, Emma Frost and Baron Zemo. So the goal of this team is to survive the first barrage of attacks from Spider-Man Noir and also from Spider-Man 2099, and then allow your Baron Zemo to apply ability block to Spider-Weaver, and this will stop Spider-Weaver from getting any charges from her ultimate and from her special, so this is going to be very convenient for you to stop her. After you ability block Spider-Weaver, you are going to be able to use Eternals with their abilities. Their abilities will not be missed, and this will allow you to destroy Spider-Weaver, Spider-Man 2099 and Spider-Man Noir. So in this specific case, it doesn't really matter which enemies you are facing, so you can have the Tangled web with any combination of characters except the X Factor. If you are facing Tangled web with X Factor, Longshot and Shatterstar, you might have some problems because the early damage might be so big that your Zemo gets destroyed early on and you are not able to ability block the Spider-Weaver. So let's take a look at this match, and overall this is not my favorite counter. This counter was firstly seen by Segi Jexi or something, I don't know exactly how to spell his name, but I think he was the first to come up with this counter. Once again, it really depends on which characters are together with the Tangled web. If it's going to be some early burst damage, your Zemo might not survive. There are a few reasons why I don't like this counter so much. One of them is because we are using Eternals, and the Eternals can be more valuable in other rooms, but if you have nothing else, this is going to be a good option. And on top of that, we also have two characters that are quite squishy, Loki and Baron Zemo. So if they die, you are going to lose a lot of efficiency, and this is something that you don't want to happen often in Cosmic Crucible. You want to have as much efficiency as possible, and unfortunately this is not the team for that. So that's why this team is not one of my favorites. It's a counter, yes, definitely. It depends on which enemies you are facing. It depends if you have Icarus and Cersei available, and if you don't need them in other rooms. So once again, it's a decent counter, not my favorite by any means, and it's actually not super free to play friendly unless you are like a veteran player and you have been playing for over a year and you have access to the release of Icarus and Cersei. Otherwise, this is not going to be a good counter for you. Okay, let's take a look at our second counter. So this is going to be Young Avengers with Doctor Doom. This counter has been seen first on Remanek's stream, and this only works on massive punch downs, so it really depends on how big the enemy's Tangled web are. and also how big your Young Avengers are. The Young Avengers, they have been falling off in terms of value because of the multiple runs of the Famine Scourge event, so it's not a team that is recommended to get up super high. And they are also required to counter consistently Wakanda, so you have to compromise this team to use on the Tangled Web or using them on Wakanda. In my opinion, it's just better to use them against Wakanda, and once again, it requires a massive punch down in order for you to be successful. So yeah, it's not one of my favorite options in order to counter the Tangled Web. Once again, this was first seen on Ramen Extreme, so I guess he came up with this idea. I'm gonna try to reference all the people that came up with each of the counters. Okay, so as you can see right here, it requires a massive punch down, and it's also very luck based. You need to be lucky and not have your Doctor Doom or your Squirrel Girl being attacked with trauma, because otherwise you will get pretty much wrecked. And once again, punch down, and if you are facing any kind of team that has really big burst damage, once again like Tangled Web with X Factor or with some other combinations with early burst damage, it might not be a good option for you because your Doctor Doom might get destroyed. You might want to change the isolate from Doctor Doom from Striker to Fortifier for the barrier and for the minor defense up. Otherwise, your Doctor Doom might not survive. So, in this specific matchup, you want to focus on everyone other than Tangled Web. You want to focus on anyone else other than Spider Weaver. Go after Spider-Man Noir, try to get rid of him. Go after the Spider-Man 2099, especially if you can get him early on before he does the ability block. That would be great. And if you cannot reach any of those characters, go after the characters that are not Tangled Web, so the Spider Weaver does not get multiple charges. So this is something that you have to keep in mind. And this team is also good because Kate Bishop, she has 200% accuracy. Echo, she has 150% accuracy, so even that Spider Weaver reduces the accuracy, you still have some chance of attacking them, and this is what you are going to use to your advantage. So it's preferable for you to have a very big Kate Bishop with Striker ISO 8 in order for you to have the summon of Doctor Doom, the time platform. So the character with the highest accuracy can attack, and then you can actually land your ability. So you can see right here that Kate Bishop was called for attack, and she's able to land her abilities to Spider Weaver. And whenever Miss Marvel assists, Miss Marvel still removes the charges of Spider Weaver, which is something pretty decent. It works. It's okay. It's not amazing. Once again, massive punch down. It can be very dangerous if one of your priority characters, Squirrel Girl and Doctor Doom, get attacked early on with that stun with trauma. If that happens to you, this counter is completely compromised. So once again, this is why it's not one of my favorite counters. It works, yes, that's true, but it's just way too much RNG, and it requires way too much investment on your Young Avengers in order for you to be successful. So yeah. Okay, now we are going to take a look at a variant of the Young Avengers counter, but instead of using Doctor Doom, we are going to use Red Hulk. Red Hulk is a good character to pair up with the Young Avengers because he is a hero brawler, and Miss Marvel, she applies assists to hero brawlers, so they have this synergy which is pretty decent. But I came up with this counter, but I don't really recommend it, or it's not the best advice, because if you are removing Red Hulk from the Gamma team, you can compromise your defense or compromise your offense. Even if you have the Gamma team without Red Hulk on defense, it's still pretty decent, and it will still bait your enemy to spend a good team against them. So it's not the worst option, it's just an inconvenient option because you are once again crippling two teams. You are crippling your Gamma team on defense or offense, but you are also compromising the counter against Wakanda, which is usually Young Avengers. So that's why this is not one of my favorite teams either. Once again, I came up with this one, and you saw before in my previous videos that it worked pretty well, and you are going to see once again that it works. And you can punch up quite a lot with this team, at least 100k up to 200k, so over 10% with this specific counter. And it does not rely as much on luck as the previous one. The previous one, if you get stunned by Spider Weaver on Squirrel Girl, or if you get stunned on Doctor Doom, that it's almost game over. But Red Hulk, if he gets stunned, he has a lot more survivability than Doctor Doom. He gets charges that allows him to go faster. He also has the block chance whenever he has charges, so that increases his viability for this. But like I said, this is not one of my preferable counters because it compromises the Gamma team, and it compromises also the Wakanda counter. So another problem with this team is the efficiency. This team does not kill the enemies that fast. You need your Red Hulk to be charged, and it might take a while. And outside of Red Hulk, you can see that the slow, it takes quite a long time to show up, and this is going to compromise your efficiency. It's going to take a lot of turns. And yeah, it's an option. It's a good option. Once again, you can punch up quite big with this team, and if they have big burst damage like Tangled Web with X Factor, that's still not going to be a problem. That's actually beneficial for you because your Red Hulk is going to charge up faster, and Squirrel Girl will be able to protect your team with all those deflects, and the deflects stop crits. So that's going to be great as well against the X Factor variants of the Tangled Web. So as you can see, as soon as Red Hulk does his ultimate, and then we have the gamma radiation on the field, then the enemies just start dropping off like flies, but it takes some time to charge up, and that's going to compromise your efficiency. Okay, let's take a look at another counter. This time we have the Dormammu variation. So this is going to be free to play or not, depending on if you have Dormammu or not. So this is going to be free to play for veteran players, but if you are a new player, this is not going to be accessible to you. And overall, I don't recommend this counter because none of these characters are worth the investment right now. And once again, if you are a veteran player and for some reason you get up these characters previously for the Pestilence Scourge event, then it might be something you have available. It requires Dormammu, so because of that it's not great, and it's also limited because if the Tangled Web have any allies that are hero mutant, the revives from Dormammu are going to be removed. So this is definitely something you don't want. And it can punch across, it maybe can punch up a little bit. It's just something I don't recommend. I came up with this counter, but it's not something I recommend. Now, the footage that we are going to take a look at, it's in Alliance Wars, and the enemies will have blind. In Cosmic Crucible, you will not have blind on your enemies, so you have to remember that you're gonna take a ton of damage, and this is why you need Dormammu. You need your characters to be revived. Now, another reason that why I don't like this counter, it's because it requires huge investment on Elsa Bloodstone, which is not a great investment. So yes, it works if you have a very big Elsa Bloodstone and if you have Dormammu. If you don't have Dormammu and if you don't have a big gigantic Elsa Bloodstone, it might not work. It also relies a little bit on luck because you don't have a full Dark Hunter team. So Elsa Bloodstone will have around 80% accuracy, if I remember correctly. And yeah, she's gonna do massive damage to whenever a character misses an attack or whenever they dodge. And yeah, that's the center. As you can see, with the bleeds from Ghost Rider, from his special ability that cannot be missed, and from the ultimate ability and passive attacks from Elsa Bloodstone, we were able to destroy the enemies. But once again, this is not a counter that I recommend because it requires investment on characters that have little value, and it also requires Dormammu, which you might need against other teams that are more powerful, like the Gamma team or like some legendary team on Room 6. So it's a possibility. It's more convenient for veteran players, but overall it's not the best option. Okay, let's take a look at another counter, and this one was first seen on Pathfinder Gaming video, and it was a counter that Boylan used, and then Boylan said that it was not his counter, it was someone else that told about this counter to him, and then he used it. So this is going to be Eros Guardians with Heimdall and with Dormammu. So this is not something you want to use once again because of Dormammu. It requires huge investment on Eros Guardians, and if your enemies have any kind of hero mutants, the revives from Dormammu will be gone and it will compromise this strategy. Now, this strategy might come back in 1 or 2 weeks whenever we have the rework for Hela, because Hela, she is also an Asgardian and she's also going to benefit out of Heimdall's passive. And with the Greg on the field, he might help us to counter the Tangled Web with Eros Guardians. So this is something that we are going to take a second look in the future after the Hela rework and the zombie Iron Man is in game. But anyway, let's take a look once again. This was someone that is subscribed to Boylan that told him, then he used it, and then Pathfinder Gaming made a video about it. So let's take a look at this counter. Once again, it's not my favorite option. This is a Scourge team, the Eros Guardians, and their value outside of Scourge is not that great. And with the more passes that we have of the War Scourge, the less value Eros Guardians will have in terms of investment. Once again, it requires Dormammu, or at least it's better with Dormammu. You can sack the node and then take your Eros Guardians, that's also a possibility, but that's going to compromise your efficiency. So you have to decide, are you going to use Dormammu and one-shot it, or are you going to double tap it and use a sack team and then Eros Guardians? Those are two possibilities, but as you can see, you just do massive amount of damage to the Tangled Web. They get completely destroyed. It requires a little bit of luck because you need for Valkyrie to give buffs to your team. So overall, it requires some RNG. It requires a team that doesn't have a good value of investment, and it also requires Dormammu. So it's up to you if you want to use that counter or not. Even that you saw, it's quite good. Okay, let's take a look at another counter. This time we have Astonishing XMen with Dormammu. So once again, you have to compromise your Dormammu in order to counter the Tangled Web. You might be able to not use Dormammu if your Astonishing XMen are like huge, gigantic, and you are punching down on Tangled Web. I'm not exactly sure if they are going to be able to face like a gigantic Spider-Man 2099s and Spider-Man Noir, because the damage is so big, so it's going to require you to have Dormammu. On top of that, as I said before, if you are facing any kind of hero mutants, the revives from Dormammu will be removed. So keep that in mind. If there are any hero mutants together with the Tangled Web, it's going to be a very big risk because the revives from Dormammu are going to be removed. So this team works on the basis of a bug, and the bug, we don't know if it's with the Astonishing XMen or if it's with the Infinity Watch, but whenever Nebula assists, Nebula does not remove charges from the Spider Weaver. But whenever the Astonishing XMen assist, or whenever Iceman attacks, they remove charges from Spider Weaver. So we don't know if the Infinity Watch is bugged or if the Astonishing XMen is bugged. One of them is bugged for sure, but yes, the Astonishing XMen are able to remove the charges from Spider Weaver a lot faster, and that will allow them to do massive damage to the Tangled Web. So let's take a look at this match in action. And who came up with this team was Mr. Artgrave, Hail Helmut. Yes, Hail Helmut was able to figure out this counter by accident, because it was the first time he was facing this team, and maybe he had some secret information that told him about this bug. But you can see that whenever they attack, that Iceman is going to activate his passive. So we don't know for sure if it's the Iceman passive that is removing the charges from the enemies, or if it's the assists that the Astonishing XMen do that remove the assists. So you can see right there that Beast died, and if we don't have the revives, this is not going to work out. So once again, user beware of the situation. So you can see that our team is getting destroyed. If it's a Tangled Web with big burst damage from like Secret Avengers, from X Factor, sorry. So if it's Tangled Web with X Factor, the burst damage is like insane. It might not work out for you because they just destroy your team way too fast. But you can see that Spider Weaver, she has no charges, and this is how you can slap on them. Once again, we don't know for sure if it's the Iceman removing the charges or if it's the assist removing the charges. All we know is that yes, somehow it works, but it would be nice if it would also work the same way with Infinity Watch, because supposedly both of these teams have assists. So once you can see once again that Spider Weaver has no charges, and we are going to be able to stun them with Jubilee. And Jubilee also does a turn rewind and applies slow, so that's going to increase the value of that turn rewind. And then that's all there is. You just keep focusing on Spider Weaver, focus on Spider-Man 2099, because he has a little bit less HP than Spider Weaver. You can use Spider-Man 2099 and Spider-Man Noir to get additional turn meter with your Astonishing X-Men. They are getting extremely slapped by that Ghost Spider. It happens, it's just part of the job. So once again, it really depends on which teams you are facing, if it's gonna have some big burst damage or not, but yeah, it works. We don't know exactly how it works. And once again, it was Helmut that came up with this counter, so yeah, shout out to him. First time he attacks this team and he came up with a good counter for those specific situations that I mentioned. Once again, not having hero mutants and punching down or having massive Astonishing X-Men. So there you go, as you can see, it works. Okay, so now you're going to take a look at one of my favorite counters. This one is 100% free to play. We are going to use Dr. Doom together with the Uncanny X-Men. Now, this suggestion was made in one of my comments against the Gamma team. They said you can use Storm together with Dr. Doom, and that will allow you for your Storm to charge up faster, and then you can one-shot the Gamma team. And then I remember, if I have the T4 on Storm's ultimate, the attack cannot be missed. And so based on that recommendation against the Gamma team, I use it for the Tangled Web, because even if Spider Weaver has charges, Storm will not be able to miss her ultimate if she has 20 charges. So the goal of this team is going to be to have some damage on Dr. Doom or have some damage on Phoenix. Then Colossus is going to taunt and he's going to protect Storm and Dr. Doom. Then Dr. Doom is going to use his time platform, turn 1 or turn 2, it doesn't really matter. And then he's going to call Storm to also for the time platform. She's going to have 2 turns, and then you are going to use her ultimate with 20 charges, and she's going to completely destroy everyone. So once again, thanks for that recommendation for the Gamma team, and I recycled that information to make it useful against the Tangled Web. So let's take a look at exactly how this works. And you want to make sure that your Storm has the highest damage on your team. Otherwise, one of the other characters can be called for the time platform, and that's not convenient. Now, in case it's Phoenix, it's not the worst option. So if Storm is called for a time platform, that's great. If Phoenix is called for a time platform, it's not the best, but it's not the worst either. One of those 2 characters, you want them to be called for the time platform. Okay, so as you can take a look, Phoenix got wrecked, and we have Colossus with the taunt, and that will allow you to protect your characters, to protect your Storm, and also to protect your Dormammu, which are going to be the characters you want to have available to do the ultimate. So Now we got the Dark Phoenix, and because we have Dark Phoenix and Storm on the field at the same time, now Dark Phoenix, she has a little bit higher damage than Storm, which is inconvenient, but it also works, as I mentioned. So, what's her name? The Spider Weaver, she no longer has charges, and we are going to apply this rub to as many characters as possible. And then we are going to use the ultimate. If Spider Weaver still has charges, you don't want to use the special with Doctor Doom. You want to keep the minions around so the minions can attack Spider Weaver and get her out of the field. So we need to keep that in mind. So let's turn the rewind just a little bit. If Spider Weaver has charges, you don't want to use the special with Doctor Doom. You want to have as many minions as possible because the basic attack of the minions is unavoidable, and you can use them to poke on Spider Weaver. And if Phoenix is called for assist, you are going to use the ultimate, and then you just want to use as many basics as possible. If you have still Storm around, just be careful to don't overcharge Spider Weaver again, because then you have to deal with her charges once again, and that's something you don't want. So this is a very convenient counter in my opinion, because it allows you to use Dormammu against other teams that might be more problematic. And all of the characters on this team are 100% free to play. They are available for you to farm in multiple nodes. You can get shards from premium orbs, milestone orbs, and other orbs that you can find in game. So overall, I think this is a great counter. It requires the T4 on the ultimate of Storm, and it also requires Storm to have the Striker Eyes Await and also have more yellow stars and red stars and gear compared to the other characters, so she's always called for assist whenever Doctor Doom does the time platform. So yeah, this is a great counter. This is one of my favorites. Once again, I recycled the information that someone gave me for the Gamma team, and I applied it to the Tangled Wet team based on the abilities from Storm and Doctor Doom. Okay, so now we are going to take a look at my last counter, and this is 100% original idea from me, and we are going to use Shadowlands together with Omega Red. And the basis of this strategy is going to be similar with what we used with Eternals plus Baron Zemo. We are going to apply ability block to Spider Weaver, and then we are going to destroy her, and that's pretty much it. So this requires Shadowland, and my favorite Shadowland characters are going to be White Tiger, Moon Knight, Daredevil, and Night Nurse, yes. And the eyes await for these characters, I like to use Striker on White Tiger and Moon Knight, Skirmisher on Daredevil, and you can also use Skirmisher or Healer on Night Nurse. With Omega Red, you always want to have Skirmisher, or you always want to have Striker, so he does the double tap on Spider Weaver, and that will allow you to destroy her way faster. Okay, so let's take a look at this matchup. Once again, 100% original idea from me. Edit last night, I had a vision. I was contacted by aliens, and they inspired me to do this counter. So we'll take a look at that. This counter is just massive, and the reason why, it's because whenever the Shadowlands are attacked and they go below 50% health or something, it allows for your Night Nurse to go a lot faster. So you're going to use her ultimate, and you're going to flip all those negative effects into positive effects. Then you are going to ability block with your White Tiger, Spider Weaver, and like this, she's not going to be able to get charges. With your Moon Knight, you are going to apply tons of negative effects to the enemies, and hopefully you can get some slow on the Tangled Web. Then you have Daredevil just to apply some counters and also to apply some vulnerabilities. Thanks for the sub. And with that said, we are going to use the special of Night Nurse. It's going to always call Omega Red for assist whenever you use the special of Night Nurse, and as you can see, Omega Red completely destroyed that Spider Weaver. So this is a great use for Omega Red because the Weapon X is not the best team for Cosmic Crucible, and right now I'm using this team, the Weapon X, divided. I'm using Wolverine in one team, I'm using Lady Deathstrike in another team, and this is going to be a great use for Omega Red. Like this, you don't have to compromise your Doctor Doom. Like this, you don't have to compromise your Dormammu, and this is going to be a super efficient way of dealing with the Tangled Web. As you can see, Spider-Weaver, Spider-Man 2099 and Spider-Man Noir got completely destroyed, and once again we are punching up 200k with this team. So as you can see, this is very, very powerful. In my opinion, is the best counter, and this is why I saved it for last. And I'm glad because it's my original idea, so that's going to be great. You can see once again Night Nurse doing her special and Omega Red doing his basic, which does damage plus health steal, keeping the team alive and increasing your efficiency on Cosmic Crucible. So yeah guys, that's gonna be the video. I hope you guys enjoyed all the counters for the Tangled Web that I'm aware of. Let me know in the comments below if you have any other counters. And as I mentioned before, you have to be very careful on which enemies you are facing Tangled Web. If they are paired up with hero mutants, you don't want to use your Dormammu. You want to use one of those counters without Dormammu. And most of these counters are free to play, as I mentioned. Most of these characters are farmable, except Icarus and a few other characters, but I gave you a wide variety of options for you to use in Cosmic Crucible. So yeah guys, that's gonna be the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you smash that like button, and if you found the video helpful, make sure you share it with your friends on Facebook and Discord. If you are new to my channel, make sure you subscribe for more Marvel Strike Force content, and I will catch you guys later.
So yeah guys, that's gonna be the video. I hope you guys enjoy it. If you did enjoy, you can fuck off and get fucked, Commander.